Hi, everyone. I'm Tara. Welcome to Time Out with Tinseltown Mom. I'm here today with Joy Altimare, the Chief Management Officer of EHE Health, the industry leader in health and prevention. With over 16 years of experience in the marketing field, Joy has become an expert advisor to organizations looking to tackle growth, innovation, and technology challenges. Today, we're going to talk about the challenges of being a successful working mom during a pandemic, and Joy will share tips on how she makes it work. Hi, Joy. Welcome.
Hi, Caroline. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today? You're in New York, right?
We're in New York. We are doing great today, considering how much time we stayed up last night watching such a historical moment in our country's history. But we're excited.
Right.
We're out 9, I would say.
Was your daughter up late last night too?
Yeah, I watched it. Obviously, she's doing school, and I watched it at work. And so when I got home, I just, replayed the hour, just the swearing in of it and such. And we watched it right after dinner, and it was such a great moment.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely such a historic moment. That's great that you had your daughter watch it too.
Yeah. She's only 6, but she got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So as you said, I'm in New York, and I'm the Chief Engagement and Brand Officer at a company called EHE Health. We are a 107-year-old preventive health company. We've been around since the beginning of insurance. So we are deeply rooted in trying to help employers figure out how to truly provide preventive care to their employee population, and so that those individuals can lead really healthy, productive lives. And so there's so many components to the business, and we can talk about that later. But that's what I do. But I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I come from a Jamaican father and an American mother. I'm an only child. And so with that background, I think there's a lot going on, right? My dad definitely was a hard pusher, overachiever, and really pushed me to kind of be the best I could be. So a lot of what I am is very much connected to how I was raised, I think, like most of us. And so I grew up, like I said, in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My dad is one of 13. So while I was the only child, I had lots of cousins, I often feel like I wasn't an only child because I was around so many people growing up. And my parents really just worked hard, sacrificed. They sent me to an all-girls school for my education, and then I went to college in Boston. And that's when I fell in love with marketing, with what I do now. I started in advertising at an agency called Arnold, huge agency known for really producing thought-provoking, consumer-driving behavior creative. And I stayed in that business, like you said, for almost 12 years. I stayed in that business, in the advertising business, really honing my skill set of how to, for lack of a better phrase, how to predict and drive and change consumer behavior towards a product. And it was great. I loved it. And I did that for a very, very long time. I worked myself from the bottom to kind of the top. I left the agency world as the head of a WPP agency, really leading all of their multicultural work across brands like Burger King, Ford, Verizon, et cetera. So that was an amazing experience. And then I left that world and kind of went into the more corporate side, which is where I am now.
Okay. And how long have you been with EHE?
I've been with EHE for a little over 4 years. And I laugh because I've just described, the agency world. And in the agency world, I worked in that business for 12, 13 years. And I worked at like 5 different agencies. So my background, my history was really more like I stay at a place for 2 or 3 years, create change, and then I am off to the next kind of adventure or challenge. But EHE have been here for, in October, it was 4 years. And it feels like 2. It feels like I'm constantly, because healthcare is so dynamic, it feels like a new company every couple of years, new challenges, new adventures. So it's definitely been, I've been shocked that I've been here this long, but I love it. And every day is different.
Yeah, I feel like just in doing my little research that you're kind of like the face of EHE.
Oh,
Yeah, like because I see you all over like the news, media, just talking about preventative health measures that your company takes, and I think it's awesome that you're used in that way. And I know your title is Chief Management Officer. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Chief Engagement and Brand Officer, which essentially the Chief Engagement Officer title was something that my CEO and I talked about a lot because I came to the company as but I came to the company as VP of Marketing. And I was really singularly focused on kind of what you've described, putting a face to healthcare. And at the time, really, I wanted to leverage our Chief Medical Officer and really help people understand that prevention is super important. We live in a world, and I think COVID has really exacerbated this fact that we live in a world where our healthcare system is usually about problem and solution, about sick care. And we're in the business we are truly in the healthcare business, keeping people healthy. And so I was really focused when I came here on creating a consumer funnel or consumer process, thinking about how you shop for vacations or shop for clothing, having that be a process that we replicate for how people should shop for healthcare, and really enticing them with content that is not just around sick care or even healthcare specifically, but around eating better, moving better, and thinking better. So I really, when I was promoted into the executive suite, I really didn't want to say I'm a chief marketing officer. I really wanted to talk about how healthcare has to focus on engaging individuals versus being like this transaction. Healthcare can feel very sterile because you're dealing with people in a transactionary way. And we really want people if we want them to make change in their life, dynamic change in the way that they eat, think, and move, we have to provide an engagement with them. So that's and it's not the first time. There's a whole book around the new marketing officer being the chief engagement officer and thinking about digital product, engineering, technology, as well as marketing, thinking about it collectively so that you can deliver engaging experiences to consumers.
Mm-hmm. And do you think because of the pandemic, you brought more brand awareness to this philosophy?
Yeah, I think the pandemic taught us a lot. You mentioned that I'm definitely out and about and very vocal. I've always been vocal about women equality, equity, and specifically as it relates to the healthcare system. And I think what COVID showed us, because we saw such high numbers of people of color with pre-existing conditions around hypertension, diabetes, obesity, we saw them more negatively impacted by COVID. I think in December, the number was, 3 times people of color were 3 times more likely to die of COVID than non-people of color. And I think what COVID has shown us is the correlation between good preventive health and disease management. We all, I think, intuitively knew it. We could, you go to your doctor every year and they're like, definitely work on your cholesterol, definitely work on, your intake, caloric intake. It could lead to other things. But what I think COVID did, it highlighted those specific things that are not typically hereditary. These are lifestyle behaviors that lead to higher incidences of mortality. And what COVID has shown us is that if you can take control of your lifestyle, if you can manage how you eat, make sure that you're moving every day, then you can lessen your risk of contracting this virus. And then and long after this virus is gone, you can lessen your risk of contracting any virus. You're less susceptible. And I think we all want that. We all want to be in a situation where we're less susceptible to, being negatively impacted by uncontrollable viruses.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And that also transcends into motherhood, actually, because
Yes.
I feel like as mothers, we've been making it a point to try to be more healthy, especially during this time when, there's a lot of unhealthy out there. Like we're doing even more to make sure our families are healthy. Do you find that as well, just as a mother, that you've been more intentional with the prevention part of your life?
For sure. And I love that you use that word intentional. I was just talking to some of my friends about, it's January, everyone's trying to make resolutions. In my house, we don't make those. We make intentions. What are our intentions? And healthy well-being, more consistent health focused decisions is like number one on my list. And I think it's because, like you said, during COVID, I'll be completely honest, the first 2 to 3 weeks of the lock-in, it was like Thanksgiving in our house every night. I was whipping up, using the real meat, using the real sugar, real butter, real milk. We just we were looking for comfort, right?
Yes,
So
I was doing the same thing.
yeah, we were creating, I'm, like I said, I'm from the South, so everyone's always shocked that I can cook, but you learn how to cook since I'm from the South. And so I was making biscuits, I was making pancakes, I was just doing everything. I think I made like a whole, like a roasted chicken like 3 nights in a row because it was so yummy. And we had more time, right? And we
Right.
really wanted our families sitting together, watching movies together, eating, like all the things that I'm so strict about, they went out the window I would say the first 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it, our clothes were a little tighter, we were breathing a little heavier. And I think what we realized is that as the mom, and I say the mom is she's the chief health officer of the family. We are, whatever our families eat, we usually are the ones, if we're not making it, we're coordinating how it's, what they're going to eat. And I really became super focused on not losing weight, but really making sure that we were intaking things that were going to give us energy, that were going to keep us mentally, help with our mental stamina, and really just make us feel good. So eating more veggies, making sure we're using, we reverted back to, the margarine versus the butter, really trying to focus on egg whites versus eggs, but then also making sure that we were staying, this is a huge issue they were not doing. We were staying hydrated, making sure that we were drinking so much water, making sure that we were, taking our supplement, our vitamins, even things like for my daughter, I was making sure that she stayed on her schedule with hygiene. Like, you will take a shower every day.
Yeah.
You will change your clothes every day. You will brush your teeth 2 times a day. Like all these things that I think that when we look back and we see such high incidences of mental stress or depression and anxiety around COVID, a lot of it was because we just got out of the rhythm of a schedule. And that is an essential part of taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Now for you, is your daughter, is she going to school remotely?
Yes. Oh my gosh. We just learned today. I just was on the phone with her dad. I was like, we just got a note from her school where she's going to continue to do virtual learning for the rest of the school year. And
Wow.
they're closing school a month early because they're opening a month early in the fall where they'll have in-person learning. I mean, she goes to a great school. I have to say, they figured out, so we closed school. She's closed school actually a year from, it'll be a year in March, right? So like most schools, they shut down in last March. And I would say from, the March to the end of that school season, it was a little bit of they were still trying to figure it out. But her school is so great, dedicated teachers and staff. Over the summer, they figured out how to make it work. And the students, while they crave that in-person learning, they're all really thriving from an assessment perspective. They're learning. My daughters, the teachers have figured out how to teach things like length virtually, which I was like, how are they going to do that? She's in a science capsule now, and they're learning about fossils and layering. I'm like, how are they going to help first graders understand this very tactile, I would think, learning subject or this subject? How are they going to teach it to them? And they figured out how to do it. I mean, they've just really figured it out. And so while I'm, like I had the same expression you had, like, I cannot believe she's not going to go and she's going to have her entire first grade year virtually. I think what I've observed is that this school year she has grown up significantly.
Yeah.
Is more mature. She's an independent learner. She loves to read. Her school emphasized early on, parents do not navigate, the Google Classroom for them. And so I gave her the schedule. We made, the room definitely looks more like a first grade room because she has her whiteboards and things up, but she knows how to troubleshoot her laptop if she needs to. And she, helps me sometimes help me find her home, find her work to like go over it with her. But she's really, I think this has been an example of how resilient children can be.
Mm-hmm.
And really has, I think, taught me to look at the positive side. Now, I know that my child is not like every child. every child is different. Some children, especially, I felt for the moms who had pre-K or kindergarten children, this is not the first experience that they want them to have with school or learning. But I do think that we're very blessed because the school that she's in really was dedicated to try to not just appease the children during the year, but help them continue to learn. And I think when children are learning, they're so happy. They're so happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just kids, just speaking of, just some of the good that's come out of this, they're learning how to be more organized, communicate better, just having to email their teachers, like if they have a problem, and just take initiative and just be leaders. So they are learning some good qualities and methods during this, I feel, just going to school virtually. So I'm glad you brought that point up. But I think that's amazing and that's amazing that your school already has a plan in place for the school year. I don't think a lot of schools have gotten that far, at least not in California from what I see. Maybe it's just different out here. But
I think look at we also, the cases in New York and California are very different. New York, I feel like you guys are in California are kind of going through what we went through.
Yes, exactly.
A month ago, I feel like, again, and we're in Manhattan, so Manhattan's numbers are so low, which is surprising that we still can't eat in a restaurant right now, but our numbers are so low that I think it gives them a little bit longer of a runway to kind of figure it out. I think California will definitely get there because, your governor has made some really bold moves before even Biden took office. So I think you guys, I feel like California is going to catch up in the next couple of months for sure. And with the vaccine being widely distributed, hopefully soon, I feel the whole country will be in a better place, that most students, if not all, will be able to go back to school full time in the fall.
Yeah, that's what the hope is and prayer. Speaking of virtual, so what was the hardest part for you, just having this high power position, and now all of a sudden everyone's thrust at home together, and you're working at home with your daughter at home going to school? Like, what was the most challenging part for you with that?
I'm already having sweats thinking about it again. I think the biggest challenge was, you mentioned like high achieving, high power. I think most of us, especially moms, we want to do everything 100% perfectly. And I think the first thing that really was challenging for me was to, I go to work, I have an amazing support system. I don't really worry about what's happening with my daughter. And then when we had to all work in the same environment, I was like, what is going on? I am hearing her in class. I'm on a Zoom call. Because of healthcare, it didn't decrease. We were working more hours because we were trying to figure out how to get testing to all of our employees and all of our customers. So I was working 12, 14-hour days, cooking every meal. All these things were happening. And I think the biggest challenge was kind of accepting grace for myself. That was like the first thing that I think a month in, I had to realize, listen, this is a very different world. I cannot do everything perfectly. And once I did that, it was really simple, not really simple, but I started to see my attitude change. Most working women, we work with a lot of, especially I think when you're in the senior leadership role, you are around a lot of men who have wives to do a lot for them. And I remember specifically one day I was on a Zoom call with my colleagues, and one of their wives brought them a sandwich. And I just looked at that moment and I was like, that is not my life. That's not my truth.
Right.
I said to them, you know what, guys? I have to go make a sandwich. I can hear you. I'm not going to sit in front of this screen though. So I'm going to, go. I'm going to keep the sound on. I can contribute. I can multitask, but I need to go make some lunch for myself and for my family. And that started to help me, like I said, feel more grace for myself. And I think it taught them, hey, women, they often see us and they think that we're like, asexual, have no family, and we do that to them. We basically only show them the work side of ourselves. But women are multidimensional. And I think for me, the hardest part was the fear around illustrating to them that I have other priorities that I have to take care of right now. If you remember those early, if you had if you had people who helped you every day, they can come into your home. No one was coming to help you. So you're cleaning, you're cooking, you're working, you're nurturing. And I think we all wanted to do that 100% perfectly. Once we realized that was impossible, we needed to also communicate with our employers and our employees that, hey, listen, while I'm doing this conference call, I may have to fold a load of laundry. Sorry,
I
but I
love
can do
that.
it.
Yeah.
I can. Women were able to do that. I can hear you. I don't have to see the spreadsheet to tell you that the numbers are wrong. When you're talking through it, I can hear you and do it. So that was like, I would say the hardest part of really, of the COVID at the beginning was really just making sure that I was taking care of myself by illustrating that I can't be like I am at work when I'm not before COVID. I can't just be this, engine that never stops. I have to take a moment. I have to take a moment to care for myself, and I have to sometimes multitask in front of you.
Yeah. No, I love that you brought that up because there's some mothers out there, they're trying to multitask, with their positions, and maybe it's challenging for them because in some cases there's loads at work where you're carrying the load for two people because maybe they're short staffed or whatever the reason is. Now, do you recommend, let's say there's a mom out there who feels like she's carrying too much with her work and she's trying to navigate her home life. Like, do you think it's wise for that mom to maybe have a conversation with her employer, or what would you suggest initially, like she does if she feels overwhelmed in this moment and she's not sure how to just navigate life or balance it? I know that's kind of a broad question. So
it's a good question because we know the data has told us that 1 out of every 3 women will not return to the workforce post-COVID. They basically, COVID has really, some people are arguing that all the progress we've made in the women's movement around equal pay and equality, all those things will be challenged because women have taken on double duty at home. Especially if it's a 2-income family, most men are just focusing on work and they're being free. They're getting the sandwiches handed to them, right?
Yeah.
And someone else is making it. But your question is very valid. And I would say, I recognize that I definitely am in a different situation. I'm an executive. I have a familiar relationship with my CEO. I have an amazing CEO as well, who is married to a very an ambitious, powerful woman. She always worked until they retired. And he also raised 5 ambitious daughters. So he is a feminist. And so I do recognize that sometimes your audience can help you feel more comfortable approaching that conversation. So that would probably be my first piece of advice. Know your audience, know who you're talking to, try to make sure you understand what would make sense to them. I would say the positive is that COVID has exposed a lot of people in their home environment, and people are more amenable to these conversations. The second piece I would say is be thoughtful and write down what it is that you need help with, right? So to go to your boss and say, I'm overwhelmed, and basically just put on his or her lap the problem without even talking through like some suggested solutions that you think would help you be less overwhelmed, that's not going to lead to a productive situation. So what you want to do is really say, you don't need to triage why you're overwhelmed with your boss, but what you need to do is be explicit and say, listen, right now, I'm very overwhelmed with work and what's happening at home. I'm also dealing with, if there's people in your family that have contracted COVID or what have you, like, I think you should say those things and then say, this is what support I need from you and the organization. I need to be able to not work on Tuesdays. I need to be able to not work on the weekends, or I need to be able to, leave virtual office by 5:00. I'll come back on at a certain time once my kids are down. Like, whatever you need, I think you need to be very explicit and tell them. So that way you're actively leaning into how you can continue to contribute to the organization, but what this organization needs to do to support you. And then the third thing I would say is, do it in a way after you have, taken a beat and you can express your thoughts clearly. I think when you're in that heightened moment of being overwhelmed, that's not the time to have the conversation. I think you definitely need to, what I've learned and what has helped me is to really write down what am I feeling and then write down what I need. And then when I'm in a calmer state, have the conversation with the person who can make the change. Don't talk to your colleagues and complain. Talk to your boss.
Yeah.
And have set up time with them, treat it like a meeting. that you're, wanting to talk to them about what's going on confidentially. And here's what I need from the organization. If they're a good boss and they want to keep you, they will work with you on those changes.
That's excellent advice, Joy. So, what are some preventative measures or methods you use to cope with the stress of life?
I mean, it goes back to kind of what we were talking about. I gave up trying to be 100% perfect all the time. So for me, I think structure and organization are key in any preventive plan. So we have the schedule everywhere in the house, in the kitchen, in the bedrooms, in the living room. Like everyone knows what should be happening all day. And it, like we said earlier, it allows people to be independent. I don't have to remind my daughter to do X, Y, Z. I definitely use technology a lot. We have Alexa. I mean, I feel like Alexa's another member of the family. So we use Alexa reminders to make sure we're doing things that we need to do. The third thing is I definitely rely a lot on apps to do like some of the menial tasks that at the beginning of COVID were just precautionary measures. So like I rarely go to the grocery store. That was like a petri dish for COVID,
Yeah.
And so in the days, I just started working with Whole Foods app. We have what's called Fresh Direct, which works with Whole Foods. There's so many different apps out there to just get the essentials delivered on a regular basis. That reduces my stress and anxiety around, do we have enough food in the house? Who's going to have to go get it? So I just have it delivered every Wednesday, and the core things that we need are there. I know that sounds so elementary, but you don't know how much stress I think people have about putting on gloves, putting on the mask, going into the grocery store. Will they have what I need? It's just so much easier to look on a phone, pick the things you want. The bananas they arrive, they put them in front of your door. You don't even see a human being. It's great. And that keeps us healthy. It reduces the options of me picking up, 2 bags of Oreos, so
Yeah.
those things keep us healthy. And then I would say the other thing is that, we have learned through COVID that a lot of people have feelings about a lot of things. And so, one of the things that I really try to model for my daughter is how do we manage feelings? Well, we manage them by talking about them head on. We don't bury them. Because when we're talking about prevention, a lot of, disease or illness will come, yes, from behavior, what we eat, if we're not moving, but really the cognitive piece is so important in holistic health and well-being. And so what we are trying to do and trying to model is it's okay to have a feeling about something, and it's in talking about it, exploring it helps relieve you from the stress around that particular feeling. So we talked about George Floyd, we talked about Black Lives Matter. We talked about, 2 weeks ago, we talked about the insurrection. Even though she's 6, she has feelings, and I have feelings, and her dad has feelings. And so one of the core pieces of preventive medicine and prevention is to talk about those feelings so that you can work through them. And that piece, I think that is what we've hopefully will emerge on the other side of COVID, practicing every day.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Are there any things that you and your daughter do together, just maybe during the day? I mean, I know you're a full-time working mom, but just during the day, just to kind of make sure you connect, in between calls, or maybe go for walks or anything like that you can just talk about?
Yeah, we do what's called special time in our house, and we do it not every day, but we do it like every 2 or 3 days. And it's really simple. It's like, we've all, especially during the time we were home 24/7, all of us, you felt because you were together that you were together, but you weren't really spending time together.
Mm-hmm.
So we special time ins, which basically, our big one is baking. So I've taught her how to make a 3-layered cake. We started with, just baking cookies, and then we went into 3-layered cake making, pie making. That's the time. It sounds like so simple, but that's the time that we're talking about math because we're measuring and et cetera. But we're also talking about feelings. Why do you like chocolate so much, Ella? How does it make you feel? That it's a small little event. It only takes about 30, 45, maybe an hour to do everything. But that is special time between me and her. And we have, we've got aprons now. We make it a very awesome event. And I know that she loves it because I'll say to her, you want to go bake something? And she's like, yep. And she gets so excited. And I think, again, it's like a good feeling for us to spend time together. But then it's also, she doesn't even recognize that she's talking and telling me everything about what's going on because she's, her hands are busy. I'm basically just trying to, figure out a way I can get to her when she's a teenager.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to spend quality time together.
Yeah. When she's 13 and doesn't want to talk to me, hopefully when I say, let's go bake something, she'll get excited.
Right. And she'll want to open up during that time with you.
Exactly. She will not have caught on to the trick.
Right. One other important thing I wanted to bring up was goal setting. My husband's a real big goal setter, so he's really pushed me in this area. So I feel like when my goals are up to date and I'm really following my goals for the week, the month, the year, etc., I feel like my life is a little bit more balanced. Like, what are your thoughts as far as goal setting? You seem like you're really organized, but are you like a goal setter?
I am. I think I can. It's going back to kind of what we talked about, which is, we try to live intentional lives. We have a vision board for our family, and then we have our individual vision boards. And those are basically our goals, right? And one of the things that has helped me is you have this goal. It's so ostentatious. It seems like you could never get to it. It's a big, hairy goal. Break it down into steps. And so what I've done is, I still like, paper calendars. I know we are all on our iPhones and such, and I do use that, but I wrote down the first week in January, we did our vision boards. And then I wrote down my 3 specific goals. One is around family, one is professional, and one is spiritual. And then I had the steps to do those goals. So like my spiritual one was really just to get, deeper into my faith. How can I do that? Well, I'm going to read the Bible this year. And I found an app that helps you do it every day. And it's more digestible, right? It doesn't seem so big. And so I just always say, have a goal, definitely have several goals, but break them down into key milestones. So one, you can complete it, but as you're completing it, you feel good about yourself. You don't feel like, oh, I messed up. I missed, it's so far away now. It's already April and I haven't even started. No, give yourself some, again, grace to get to the finish line by having, some milestones that you need to hit.
That's excellent. That's actually one of my goals, to read the Bible in a year as well.
Yeah. Go to the Bible app. They have such a great,
Oh yeah, I have it. Yeah.
It's so easy. And I think my pastor growing up used to always say the Bible is truly a love story. Like there's so many stories there about life. And I think as I'm on day 2021, as I read it, I'm like, there's things that I just didn't know that I had missed. I knew, but I didn't know the depths of the story,
Right.
And it truly is a love story. Like, even though it's a story about everything, is, about life and death, but about, evil and good. Yes. But there's more depth to it. Those are just headlines. There's so much underneath that's so powerful and beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Joy, for speaking to us. You have such a wealth of knowledge. Is there anything else that maybe I missed that you want to just share with moms that you think might be helpful?
I would just say, for sure, we're living in a very unprecedented time. Remember that there's not a handbook out there. We were never given a handbook as moms. We came home, we went into the hospital as a couple, we came out of family without a handbook.
Exactly.
So, give yourself a little bit of patience with what we're going through right now. You don't overthink, some of the mistakes you think you're making. At the end of the day, as long as you're healthy and happy, your children will be healthy and happy. So especially moms out there, take care of yourself, take care of your physical health, but also your emotional and spiritual health, because that's how your family will be healthy.
Yes, well said. Excellent. Now, where can people find you if they want to know more about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Joy Altimare, Altimare. So Joy Altimare, one word. I'm also on LinkedIn. I love hearing stories from people in the business arena if they need help or if we can connect and help each other. And you can find me there. It's Joy Altimare.
Thanks so much for listening to Time Out with Tinseltown Mom. If you liked what you heard today, please be so kind and rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time.